Avez-vous déjà entendu parler de guerre par irradiation d'ondes électromagnétiques? Alors si ce n'est pas le cas, écoutez ce qui suit. Lors d'une interview, l'ancien agent des renseignements militaires britanniques, Pourrituuuuure, a présenté des faits effrayants sur la guerre par ondes électromagnétiques. Ces armes, parfaites, permettent d'éliminer des contemporains désagréables et ou de procéder à des génocides entiers de manière invisible, silencieuse, inodore et ciblée. Quelques extraits de l'interview. Des manifestants pacifiques et critiques vis-à-vis des USA qui ont été irradiés par ondes électromagnétiques depuis une base américaine ont présenté un taux accru de dépression, des changements de personnalité et des tumeurs cancéreuses. Selon la fréquence d'impulsion du rayonnement, ils tendaient même au suicide. Les officiers de police parlent de leur changement de personnalité et chez certains policiers d'une forte augmentation d'agressivité vis-à-vis de la population, en rapport avec le nouveau système de communication radio, Tetra. Les membres des forces spéciales britanniques, portant un système de communication similaire actif, sont connus pour frapper leurs propres femmes et leurs enfants, certaines fois avec des conséquences mortelles. Différents types de puces RFID implantées sont utilisées soit pour localiser des personnes, soit pour les contrôler au travers d'une préparation chimique qui est libérée par l'irradiation sélective et qui stimule des glandes dans le cerveau. Même la création de véritables voix perceptibles est ainsi possible. Des virus inactifs et des combinaisons de bactéries peuvent être importés en secret sur le sol d'une région et réactivés par la technologie HARP, qui est un programme de recherche américain sur les ondes à haute fréquence. Ainsi, des épidémies peuvent être déclenchées pratiquement du jour au lendemain, et on peut ainsi supprimer des nations entières. En outre, la communication généralisée via les téléphones portables provient de la recherche de l'armée et a été la cause d'une augmentation épidémique de tumeurs cancéreuses, de cas de leucémie, etc. À elle seule, la Chine connaît une augmentation de cancers glandulaires de 3000%. Le nombre de tumeurs des yeux et du cerveau est aussi en augmentation. Pourrituuuuure est convaincu que la stratégie de guerre avec les ondes électromagnétiques est un génocide mondial, qui cause plus de morts que l'ensemble du terrorisme mondial de tous les temps additionnés.
Joined the Royal Navy in 1960, and I specialised in microwave warfare. Radar, obviously, which uses microwave, but they don't just teach you radar, they teach you all about microwaves and other uses. So I understood about microwave warfare and how it can damage people, how it can harm people. And when I finished with the Royal Navy, I was also a diver in the Royal Navy, and microwaves are used in underwater mines as booby traps. Which actually got me interested because I was actually taking a bomb to pieces underwater and it was too complicated. And I brought it to the surface, and my partner that was on the surface said, "Don't be an idiot, take it back down." He said, "If somebody's beaming you with microwaves, they'll go right through you, and as you open the casing, trigger a photoelectric cell and it'll blow all of us up." And he said, if it doesn't go through to the bomb, it'll aim it at your head and make you make a mistake. And that's really got me interested from that point, because I thought, well, how can microwaves going into your brain make you make a mistake? And I asked a lot of questions. I have a very curious brain. And the forces, they're very good at explaining things and telling you things. So I did that, and I also did a medical course while I was in to help me understand everything. And when I left, a small part of my job was to question captured agents, spies, terrorists, because microwaves then were used as weapons, as they are today. It is a perfect stealth weapon, and when governments don't like a group of people, for instance, the ladies who protest at Greenham Common in England about the American missile base they camped, they were microwaved. We microwaved Catholics in Northern Ireland to make them sick. It goes on all over the world. And it's a weapon that you don't know you're being targeted, because the dose is very, very low, which is actually more dangerous than a high dose. It's very, very low, and it may take a year or two, but you can cause neurological damage and cancers with low-level microwaves, and you can make all your opponents sick. It's a perfect weapon for a government.
Solid-state active denial technology, or SSADT, produces a focused beam of directed energy to provide our troops a non-lethal option to stop, deter, and turn back suspicious individuals with minimal risk of injury. Active denial technology is designed to protect the innocent, minimize fatalities, and limit collateral damage across the range of military operations. SSADT uses radio frequency millimeter waves at a frequency of 95 gigahertz. Traveling at the speed of light, the millimeter wave directed energy engages the subject, penetrating the skin to a depth of only about 1/64th of an inch. The beam produces an intolerable heating sensation, compelling the targeted individual to instinctively move. For the military, active denial technology can be used for both force application and force protection missions. Applications include crowd control, perimeter security, patrol and convoy protection, and other defensive and offensive operations from both fixed site or mobile platforms. While the active denial system advanced concept technology demonstration succeeded in demonstrating a large-scale version of active denial technology.
And I gathered all the information about that from people who were captured from other countries to find out what technologies they had, what pulse frequencies they used. But as I studied, it was only a small part of my work, but because I was highly trained in it and I was useful, it just became a part of my working structure, along with master criminals and terrorists and all sorts of people I found incredibly interesting, actually, to talk to. Very, very interesting. And then when I left there, I took a job teaching, and I taught advanced level physics, and I specialized in nuclear and atomic radiation, and again, microwaves. And I've just always been in microwaves. And then it was a doctor. I went to see a doctor once, as most teachers do, with a sore throat. And he said, as most doctors do, it's viral, there's nothing I can do for you. And I was leaving. And he said, hang on, Barry, he said, you're a physicist? And I said, yeah. And he said, can you explain something? He said, I went to a house that had a cot death 5 years ago. And the family moved, and a new family moved in. They had a new baby. The cot was in exactly the same place, and there was another cot death. And he said, 5 years apart. And he said, there's a transmitter the other side of the child's bedroom wall. Could the transmitter cause the cot death? And I said, I don't know. I said, but I'll look into it. And then I found that microwaves were involved, and I knew what microwaves did. And a while later, I went back to the doctor, I wrote a paper on it, and I said, there's your answer. Microwaves can cause cot death by 2 or 3 different mechanisms. There's your answer. And then, for some reason, he told somebody who told somebody, and people started phoning me up and writing to me, saying, can you explain this, or can you help with that? I've never actually asked anyone if I can do anything. They always come to me. And then the police came to me and said, we're getting this new tetra airwave system, we don't understand what's happening. Can you read all this scientific rubbish and just put it into Janet and John and tell us? And I said, of course I can. So that was published, and since then it's snowballed and snowballed and snowballed, and now I receive up to 1,000 communiques a week from various countries, various people, and I can't handle it. So, and I'm here now because somebody asked me to come here. Wi-Fi, I think anyone who puts Wi-Fi into a school should be locked up for the rest of their life. I really do. I think they're not fit to walk on the surface of this planet because they haven't looked at the research, and whatever incentive they have, it is not worth the genetic problems that parents are going to face with their children when they're born. And if you think of a single parent, a mother, who has a genetically deformed child, that particular mother will feel guilty because she gave birth. She will feel guilty, and she will be worried every single second of every single day for her life. She will worry that the child won't marry. If the child can marry, she'll worry that the children will carry the disease, which they will. She will worry when she dies who will take care of them. So you are condemning both the family and the children to a lifetime of absolute hell. And this is already published. It is available to look up. It's what I call intentional ignorance. They are offered some sort of incentive, and they think, oh, this is going to be good, we'll have it. Now, the problem is, imagine you are a 15-year-old schoolgirl. All of the 400,000 eggs in your ovaries were with you at birth. They're not fully developed, but they're with you. They are 10 times more susceptible to radiation than all of the other DNA in the body. And scientists don't realize that. They don't read all of the papers, as I do. So you have this highly susceptible genetic material which is going to make your children. and you are irradiating it, because Wi-Fi's, they are transmitters, as well as the routers, as well as the ones either side of you. They are all transmitting at this height through your ovaries. So you are risking the damage, the DNA damage of your child every time you sit down and you use Wi-Fi. And it's like saying, if I smoke a cigarette, which one will cause the damage? The answer is, I don't know. It could be the one today. So you now have a child that has a probability of being genetically damaged. But the real damage is when that child grows up. You have genetic material in your ovaries which could be damaged. Now, the real problem comes, so you have a child that could be born genetically damaged, but the real problem comes when you become pregnant, if you are a teacher or a mature student and you become pregnant. Because the embryo inside your womb, in the first 100 days, all of those 400,000 eggs are forming in your embryo, your child's ovaries. So your child could be born with genetically damaged eggs. And the main thing about the eggs in the ovaries of your child is that they have absolutely no protection. It hasn't been developed yet. We have a natural protection against microwaves. It was developed since the Stone Age against thunderstorms and massive amounts of radiation coming into our body. But in your embryo, your uterus, in the fetus, where your child is developing for the first 100 days, in the ovaries, the eggs do not have that protection. So they are at maximum risk from radiation. And for the first month or so, you wouldn't even know you were pregnant. You wouldn't even be taking precautions. That is the main danger area. So you give birth to a daughter, but her ovaries are now contaminated. She may be normal, she may be genetically damaged, but her ovaries are at the most risk. So when your daughter grows up and she becomes pregnant and has a baby, this is where one of these eggs will be fertilized and come out. So the real damage here is your grandchildren. That is where it is going to show most. And we already see this in animals that have reproductive cycles of a year or 2 years or 3 years. We're already seeing this, and it has been published by veterinary schools and vets and scientists, so we know this happens. And it's also been documented in the Cold War when women were deliberately microwaved. So we know it does happen. The documents are there. And what you're risking by putting Wi-Fi into schools is the future generations of all of these girls. But it gets worse, because this particular DNA, the mitochondrial DNA inside you, and the DNA inside you, the mitochondrial DNA, you can trace unchanged to your mother, her mother, her mother, right the way back to the beginning of the human race in Africa, the Stone Age. You can trace your ancestors, if you could, right back to the very first lady. It is unchanged, the mitochondria. And that is being unchanged in your children, which means if you damage it, your child could be genetically damaged, and then her child, and her child, and her child, forever. You are condemning the future generations of every single child until there are no more lines left in the female in your family. You must stop. A female must stop producing children for this to stop. So when you put Wi-Fi in schools, what you're saying is, for the sake of a little bit of money that saves getting a workman in to drill holes through the walls to feed cable, because it's cheaper, we're just going to put Wi-Fi in, but you can have genetically damaged children for the rest of your family's career. That's what we're saying.
A smaller scale, more mobile version is being developed by the U.S. Army and the Joint Non-Lethal Weapons Program, utilizing solid-state technology. This system will demonstrate and prove out the critical technologies for a follow-on tactical system, which will be an adjunct system that can be installed on a range of tactical or support vehicles. It will have an azimuth drive for full 360-degree coverage, E-steering in azimuth for fine steering control, and full E-steering in elevation. With an invisible beam, speed of light targeting, and silent operation, it can be used in a wide range of operations, such as enhanced combat mobility in dense urban areas, where it quickly and safely moves civilians obstructing vehicle mobility. Or it can be used to safely deter unarmed but suspicious civilians observing U.S. forces. At entry control points, it provides an additional layer of response for dealing with potentially threatening targets and potential crowd violence. It can be quickly de-escalated by targeting the leader, or if necessary, by panning across the entire crowd, while armed individuals mixed in a crowd can be engaged without risk to surrounding civilians. Since the beam can penetrate window glass, it can also be used for non-lethal engagement of suspicious vehicles potentially threatening U.S. forces. The SSADT will be a lightweight, non-kinetic, non-lethal anti-personnel system, providing an alternative to lethal force.
Here we go, we're going to see how this works. Alright, not getting shot yet. Ooh, field sting. Ooh, field sting. Ooh, yeah. Ooh. Oh, no, not so bad. Not so bad. Still going, still going. Oh, yeah, hot, hot. Ooh. Ah, that's it. Aboard, aboard, I'm aboard. Wow. Freaking hot. That is freaking, that is awesome. That is sick. That is hands down awesome. That's like, nope, you're not coming down this road.
Okay. Still point to point and then...
can hear it. We can hear the announcement. We can see the light.
And we're not going to go very far.
Course immediately. I say again, reverse course immediately. You are in a Navy vessel exclusion.
Abort your mission. Abort your mission. Abort your mission. Abort your mission.